Question 1. Regulation of broker-dealers and market professionals. During the introduction of new methods where coordination between market participants is crucial, brokerage firm is expanding its operations by offering complex structured products to retail investors. Given the potential risks involved, FINRA and the SEC require broker-dealers to adhere to strict standards to protect retail investors from unsuitable investments. Under Regulation Best Interest, Reg BI, which of the following actions would best ensure the firm meets its compliance obligations when recommending these structured products to retail clients? A. The firm must ensure that the investment is suitable for at least some investors and allow brokers to sell it freely. B. The firm must establish and enforce reasonable basis to believe that recommendation is in the best interest of each specific client, considering their investment profile. C. The firm should solely rely on client-signed disclosures confirming they understand the risks without further due diligence. D. The firm must prohibit retailing from purchasing structured products altogether to avoid compliance risks. Answer. B. The firm must establish and enforce a reasonable basis to believe that a recommendation is in the best interest of each specific client, considering their investment profile. Explanation. Under Regulation Best Interest, Reg BI, broker-dealers have a heightened obligation to act in the best interest of their retail clients when making recommendations. B is correct because Reg BI mandates that brokers evaluate an investor's financial risk tolerance and needs before making recommendations. A firm cannot rely solely on product suitability for some investors. The investment must be appropriate for each specific client. SEC Release No. 34866031. A is incorrect because suitability alone is insufficient. If best interest goes beyond suitability and requires client-specific analysis. C is incorrect because disclosures alone do not absolve the broker-dealer of responsibility. Firms must conduct reasonable investigation into whether the product is appropriate. D is incorrect because prohibiting all retail investors is overly broad and conflicts with investor choice principles in securities markets. Relevant law. Securities Exchange Act of 1934, Section 15L, Regulation of Broker-Dealers, SEC Regulation Best Interest, Reg BI, Rule 240.151, FINRA Rule 2111, Suitability Standard. Question 2. Insider trading and market manipulation. While investigating complicated issue between different parties in corporate acquisition, the SEC uncovers evidence that senior executive of target companies shared confidential merger details with hedge fund manager before the deal was publicly announced. The hedge fund purchased large amounts of the target company's stock based on this non-public information, earning substantial profits once acquisition was disclosed. Which legal theory would most likely apply to hold both the executive and the hedge fund manager liable for insider trading? A. The classical theory, because the executive had duty to disclose or abstain when trading on material non-public information. B. The misappropriation theory, because the hedge fund manager breached fiduciary duty to the target company. C. The tipper-tippy liability doctrine, because the executive tipper improperly disclosed material non-public information and the hedge fund manager tippy knew it was confidential. D. The safe harbor rule 10.1 protects both individuals from liability because no direct agreement to trade existed between them. Answer. C. The tipper-tippy liability doctrine, because the executive tipper improperly disclosed material non-public information and the hedge fund manager tippy knew it was confidential. Explanation. Under U.S. insider trading laws, liability extends beyond just corporate insiders who trade on material non-public information (MFPI). It also applies to tippers who improperly disclose inside information and tippies who trade on it. C is correct because the tipper-tippy liability doctrine from Dirksby Sec. 1983 states that tipper is liable if they breach duty by disclosing MFPI for personal benefit and that is liable if they knowingly use the information to trade. Here, the executive improperly disclosed the merger details and the hedge fund manager knew or should have known it was confidential. A is incorrect because the classical theory applies when corporate insider personally trades on MFPI, not when they tip an outsider. B is incorrect because the misappropriation theory United States v. O'Hagan 1997 applies when an outsider misuses confidential information in breach of duty to the source. The hedge fund manager had no fiduciary duty to the target company. D is incorrect because Rule 10.1 Safe Harbor applies only to prearranged trading plans, not cases of tipper-tippy liability. Relevant law. Securities Exchange Act of 1934, Section 10b and Rule 10.5 Dirksby, Sec. 1983. Tippy Liability Doctrine, United States v. O'Hagan 1997. Misappropriation Theory. Question 3. Public offerings and private placements. In high-stakes environment where multiple challenges arise during an APO, private technology firm is considering going public through an initial public offering APO. However, to minimize disclosure requirements, the firm is evaluating alternative offering methods, including Regulation D private placement to accredited investors before the APO. Which of the following is true? Statement regarding Regulation D offerings differ from IPOs under the Securities Act of 1933. A. Regulation D offerings are restricted from all forms of general solicitation, unlike IPOs, which can use public marketing. B. Unlike IPOs, securities sold under Regulation D are freely tradable immediately after issuance. C. Regulation D allows issuers to raise capital without registering securities with the SEC, provided they comply with offering limits and investor qualification requirements. D. IPOs and D offerings are subject to the same disclosure and reporting obligations under the Securities Act of 1933. Answer C. Regulation D allows issuers to raise capital without registering securities with the SEC, provided they comply with offering limits and investor qualification requirements. Explanation. Regulation D provides an exemption from SEC registration, allowing companies to raise capital privately. However, strict investor qualification rules and resale restrictions apply. C is correct because Regulation D permits capital raising with full SEC registration, provided issuers follow offering limits. Rule 504, 506, B, 506, C, and investor accreditation requirements. A is incorrect because Rule 506, C of Regulation D allows general solicitation provided sales are made only to accredited investors. B is incorrect because securities sold in Regulation D offerings are restricted securities and cannot be freely traded immediately. They typically require Rule 144 compliance before resale. D is incorrect because IPOs require full SEC registration. Prospectus disclosure, whereas Regulation D has fewer disclosure obligations. Relevant law. Securities Act of 1933, Section 4A2. Private offering exemption Regulation D, Rules 504, 506, B, 506. C. Rule 144. Restrictions on resale of private securities. Question 4. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges must be navigated simultaneously, an investment advisor managing a portfolio of securities for high-net-worth clients is accused of making misleading statements about the expected returns of a newly launched private equity fund. The SEC initiates an investigation, alleging that the advisor knowingly provided clients with overly optimistic projections without sufficient basis. The argues that the statements were merely forward-looking and included appropriate disclaimers. Under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, what key factor will the SEC consider in determining whether the advisor's conduct constitutes fraud? A. Whether the advisor had reasonable basis for the forward-looking statements even if they did not materialize. B. Whether the clients had prior investment experience and should have conducted independent due diligence. C. Whether the advisor's statements were widely disseminated to the public rather than just to individual clients. D. Whether the client signed waiver acknowledging that investment outcomes are inherently uncertain. Answer A. Whether the advisor had a reasonable basis for the forward-looking statements even if they did not materialize. Explanation. Under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, investment advisors owe a fiduciary duty to their clients, which includes the duty to provide accurate and complete information. The SEC will assess whether the advisor had a reasonable basis for the projections provided to clients. Forward-looking statements are not immune from scrutiny simply because they contain disclaimers. If the statements were materially misleading due to a lack of reasonable basis, they could constitute fraudulent or deceptive practices under Section 206 of the Act. B. Incorrect. The sophistication of the investor does not absolve the advisor from their duty to avoid misleading statements. While experienced investors conduct due diligence, advisors cannot mislead them. C. Incorrect. Fraud misstatements can apply to both public and private communications. The SEC does not require widespread dissemination for an action under Section 206. D. Incorrect. Waivers do not shield advisors from liability if they knowingly make false or misleading statements. Courts have ruled that fiduciary duties cannot be waived entirely in securities regulation. Question 5. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in regulatory compliance, a publicly traded company realizes that one of its board members has engaged in frequent short swing trading of the company's stock. The board member bought and sold significant shares within 6 months, profiting from the transactions. The company's legal team is concerned about compliance with Section 16(b) of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, which governs short swing profits. What is the primary consequence for the board member under Section 16(b)? A. The board member must disclose all profits to the SEC but is not required to return them. B. The company can sue to recover the profits from the board member for the benefit of the company. C. The SEC will impose fine equivalent to twice the profits gained from the short swing trading. D. The board member is only subject to penalties if they had access to material non-public information, MPI. Answer: B. The company can sue to recover the profits from the board member for the benefit of the company. Explanation: under Section 16(b) of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, corporate insiders, including officers, directors, and large shareholders 10% or more, are strictly liable for short swing profits. This means that any profits earned from buying and selling company stock within 6-month period must be returned to the company. This rule aims to prevent insider speculation and discourage rapid trading based on privileged access to company affairs. A. Incorrect. Disclosure alone does not satisfy the requirements of Section 16(b). The law mandates the return of profits to the company. C. Incorrect. While fines and penalties may apply under other provisions, Section 16(b) specifically requires the disgorgement of profits rather than imposing additional fines. D. Incorrect. Unlike insider trading laws under Rule 10(5), Section 16(b) is strict liability rule, meaning the presence of material non-public information (MPI) is irrelevant to liability. Question 6. During a major transformation where existing methods for preventing insider trading are being reassessed, a compliance officer at a brokerage firm discovers that several senior executives have prearranged stock trading plans under Rule 10(1). These plans allow insiders to buy or sell stock according to predetermined instructions to avoid allegations of insider trading. However, the officer notices that some executives are modifying or canceling their plans shortly before earnings reports. Under SEC regulations, which of the following actions could make these trades problematic under insider trading laws? A. Modifying the Rule 10(1) plan based on material non-public information, MNPI. B. Using a Rule 10(1) plan but failing to publicly announce its existence. C. Selling shares at a loss while still in compliance with the predetermined plan. D. Adopting a trading plan during a blackout period imposed by the company. Answer: A. Modifying the Rule 10(1) plan based on material non-public information, MPI. Explanation: Rule 10(1) trading plans provide an affirmative defense against insider trading accusations, but they must be entered into in good faith and without the use of material non-public information, MNPI. Frequent modifications or cancellations raise red flags that the plan is being used as a pretext for insider rather than as a legitimate prearranged trading strategy. B. Incorrect. Public disclosure of a Rule 10(1) plan is not legally required, though some companies voluntarily disclose them for transparency. C. Incorrect. Selling shares at a loss does not necessarily indicate insider trading unless the transaction is based on MPI. Losses alone do not trigger liability. D. Incorrect. While some companies restrict trading plan adoption during blackout periods, SEC rules do not automatically prohibit establishing a plan during such periods. However, if adopted with MPI, it could still violate Rule 10(5). I'll generate the remaining 4 questions next. Question 7. In a situation where previously stable financial conditions shift unexpectedly, a multinational corporation issues a new class of preferred stock with certain conversion rights. Shareholders later discover that these rights were altered without a shareholder vote, significantly reducing their potential returns. A class action lawsuit is filed under Rule 14(9) of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, alleging that the company's proxy statements misleading. Which of the following would be key factor in determining whether Rule 14(9) violation occurred? A. Whether the omitted information would have been considered important to reasonable shareholders' voting decision. B. Whether the shareholders could have predicted the change in conversion rights based on past market trends. C. Whether the shareholders were given alternative options to exit their investment after the change. D. Whether the company's board approved the change unanimously, making vote unnecessary. Answer A. Whether the omitted information would have been considered important to a reasonable shareholder's voting decision. Explanation. Under Rule 14(9), proxy statements must not contain material misstatements or omissions. Courts apply the materiality standard. If reasonable shareholder would have found the omitted information important in making voting decision, the omission could constitute violation. B. Incorrect. Past market trends absolve company from its duty to provide complete and accurate proxy disclosures. C. Incorrect. Offering an exit option does not negate potential liability if the original disclosures were misleading. D. Incorrect. Even if the board approved the changes, shareholder voting rights must still be upheld per corporate governance requirements. Question 8. Amid growing concerns about compliance gaps, a fintech startup offers securities through a crowdfunding campaign targeting retail investors. The company, however, fails to disclose that its CEO has been convicted of securities fraud in the past. After investors sustain losses, regulators initiate enforcement actions under Regulation Crowdfunding Red CF of the Jobs Act. What is the most likely regulatory consequence for the company under Red CF? The offering is automatically void and investors are entitled to a full refund. B. The SEC may bring enforcement actions, including fines and rescission of the offering. C. The company can avoid liability if it amends its disclosures with 60 days. D. The investors can only seek damages if they prove that they personally relied on the omission when investing. Answer. B. The SEC may bring enforcement actions, including fines and rescission of the offering. Explanation. Regulation Crowdfunding Red CF imposes strict disclosure requirements, and failing to disclose material facts, such as the CEO's prior fraud conviction, could lead to SEC enforcement fines and even rescission, forcing the company to return investors' money. A. Incorrect. The offering is not automatically void, but regulators may impose rescission as remedy. C. Incorrect. Amendments do not retroactively absolve the company of liability for prior material omissions. D. Incorrect. Under Red CF, investor reliance is not required to establish liability for material omissions. Question 9. To address long-standing concerns about conflicts of interest, an asset management firm implements new procedures to prevent fund managers from trading securities for personal gain at the expense of clients. Despite these controls, an SEC investigation reveals that some managers front-ran large client trades, generating personal profits. Which of the following best describes the likely regulatory outcome under the Investment Act? A. The firm is shielded from liability because it had compliance policies in place. B. The fund managers and possibly the firm could face enforcement actions for breaching fiduciary duties. C. The firm can remedy the violation by compensating clients for losses and retaining the managers. D. The SEC must prove that clients suffered significant monetary losses for enforcement to proceed. Answer. B. The fund managers and possibly the firm could face enforcement actions for breaching fiduciary duties. Explanation. Under Section 206 of the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, investment advisors owe a fiduciary duty to clients. Front-running, trading ahead of client orders for personal gain is considered fraudulent and unethical. Both the individual fund managers and the firm could face SEC enforcement act, including fines and possible disgorgement of ill-gotten gains. A. Incorrect. Having policies alone does not shield a firm from liability if violations still occur. C. Incorrect. Simply compensating clients does not eliminate regulatory consequences for misconduct. D. Incorrect. The SEC does not need to show significant client losses. The act of front-running itself is violation. Question 10. In an environment where increased scrutiny is placed on money laundering risks, a financial institution identifies a suspicious pattern of cryptocurrency transactions. The transactions involve rapid transfers across multiple jurisdictions, making it difficult to track the source of funds. The institution files a suspicious activity report, SAR, but does not implement additional due diligence measures. Regulators later find that the institution failed to adequately assess and mitigate the risks of illicit finance. Under anti-money laundering regulations, what is the institution's most likely regulatory consequence? A. The institution may face penalties for failing to implement sufficient compliance measures. B. The SAR filing alone satisfies its compliance obligations, preventing regulatory liability. C. The institution must prove that the funds were definitively linked to criminal activity before taking further action. D. Regulators will focus only on whether law enforcement pursued charges against the account holders. Answer. A. The institution may face penalties for failing to implement sufficient compliance measures. Explanation. Under the Bank Secrecy Act BSA and ML rules, financial institutions must do more than just file a suspicious activity report (SAR). They must also implement enhanced due diligence and take reasonable steps to mitigate money laundering risks. Regulators can impose penalties if institutions fail to address weaknesses in their ML programs. B. Incorrect. Filing a SAR alone does not fully satisfy compliance obligations if broader ML risks remain unaddressed. C. Incorrect. Institutions are not required to prove criminal activity, but they must take steps to mitigate risk. D. Incorrect. Regulators assess institutional compliance, not just law enforcement actions. Question 11. When implementing new protocols in a shared environment where various teams have different operational priorities, a company introduces a cybersecurity framework to ensure compliance with data protection regulations. However, some teams continue using outdated practices that expose sensitive data. An internal audit reveals gaps in enforcement and inconsistencies in employee training. Which of the following would be the best approach for the company to strengthen cybersecurity compliance? A. Increase penalties for non-compliance without additional training. B. Implement role-based access controls and mandatory security training. C. Allow each department to set its own security policies based on priorities. D. Assume employees will naturally adopt the new protocols over time. Answer. B. Implement role-based access controls and mandatory security training. Explanation. A combination of role-based access controls, RBAC, and mandatory security training helps ensure that employees only access necessary data while staying updated on security best practices. Compliance improves when employees understand risks and have clear enforcement mechanisms in place. A. Incorrect. Penalties alone do not address the root cause. Lack of understanding and enforcement mechanisms. C. Incorrect. Allowing teams to set their own policies leads to inconsistent security measures. D. Incorrect. Relying on organic adoption increases the risk of persistent security vulnerabilities. Question 12. During a critical transition period where existing processes are being automated, a financial institution integrates AI-driven fraud detection. While the system successfully flags high-risk transactions, false positives increase, leading to customer complaints and delays. What should the institution prioritize to improve the system's effectiveness? A. Manually approve all flagged transactions to prevent errors. B. Continuously refine the AI model by incorporating real-time feedback. C. Disable automation until all false positives are eliminated. D. Reduce fraud detection thresholds to minimize customer disruptions. Answer. B. Continuously refine the AI model by incorporating real-time feedback. Explanation. Refining the AI model using real-time feedback allows it to learn from mistakes, reducing false positives while maintaining strong fraud detection capabilities. A. Incorrect. Manual approval defeats automation's purpose and slows down operations. C. Incorrect. Disabling automation removes benefits like real-time fraud prevention. D. Incorrect. Lowering detection thresholds may increase fraud risks. Question 13. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in a manufacturing process, engineers notice an increasing rate of defective products. The defects appear sporadically across different shifts, and initial inspections fail to identify a clear source of error. Which of the following investigative steps is most likely to uncover the underlying issue? A. Conduct a comprehensive root cause analysis using Six Sigma methods. B. Replace the entire production line immediately to eliminate risks. C. Randomly assign different operators to different shifts. D. Wait for additional failure patterns before taking action. Answer. A. Conduct a comprehensive root cause analysis using Six Sigma methods. Explanation. Applying Six Sigma methodologies such as DMIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, control helps identify process inefficiencies and pinpoint root causes using data-driven analysis. B. Incorrect. Replacing the production line is costly and premature without identifying the root cause. C. Incorrect. Changing operator assignments with analysis could introduce new variables. D. Incorrect. Delaying action allows defects to continue accumulating. Question 14. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges must be addressed simultaneously, a hospital adopts a new electronic health record system. However, physicians report that the system slows down workflows and increases patient wait times. Which of the following would be the most effective strategy to resolve this issue? A. Mandate that all staff fully transition to the system without adjustments. B. Customize the system's interface based on user feedback to optimize workflows. C. Revert to paper-based records for high-volume cases. D. Disable system alerts to reduce disruptions. Answer: B. Customize the system's interface based on user feedback to optimize workflows. Explanation: customizing the system based on user feedback ensures that workflows remain efficient while maintaining compliance with digital record-keeping regulations. A. Incorrect. Forcing adoption without considering efficiency causes resistance. C. Incorrect. Returning to paper-based records is step backward. D. Incorrect. Disabling alerts may remove critical safety checks. Question 15. While investigating a complicated issue between different business units, a company finds inconsistencies in financial reporting due to different accounting methods. These discrepancies make it difficult to analyze overall financial performance accurately. What is the most effective way to resolve this issue? A. Standardize accounting policies across all business units. B. Allow each unit to continue using its own method. C. Use estimates to align the financial data instead of changing methods. D. Report the inconsistencies but take no immediate action. Answer: A. Standardize accounting policies across all business units. Explanation: standardizing accounting policies ensures consistent financial reporting, improving transparency and accuracy. Question 16. When implementing backup procedures across various departments, and a team realizes that some business units store sensitive data in unauthorized cloud services, this creates compliance risks and potential data breaches. What is the best course of action? A. Immediately block all third-party cloud services without alternatives. B. Implement a secure company-approved cloud storage solution. C. Ignore the issue unless a data breach occurs. D. Allow departments to continue using their preferred cloud services. Answer: B. Implement a secure company-approved cloud storage solution. Explanation: providing a secure company-approved cloud storage solution balances security with operational needs, reducing compliance risks. Question 17. In a situation where formal requirements conflict with practical constraints, an engineering firm must choose between meeting strict regulatory standards or optimizing project costs. Some cost-effective options slightly deviate from the standards but pose no safety risks. What is the best approach? A. Follow strict regulations, regardless of cost. B. Request an official variance for regulatory flexibility. C. Proceed with the cost-effective option without informing regulators. D. Reduce project scope to avoid compliance conflicts. Answer: B. Request an official variance for regulatory flexibility. Explanation: applying for a variance allows companies to legally deviate from certain requirements while ensuring regulatory compliance. Question 18. During a major transformation where existing methods are being replaced, a global retailer rolls out a new inventory tracking system. However, store managers report frequent inaccuracies leading to stock shortages. What should be the next step? A. Conduct a phased implementation with pilot testing. B. Force immediate adoption of the new system. C. Continue using the new system despite errors. D. Return to manual inventory tracking. Answer: A. Conduct a phased implementation with pilot testing. Explanation: a phased implementation with pilot testing allows identification of issues early, reducing disruption. Question 19. While managing a hybrid approach where timing issues impact coordination, a company struggles to synchronize remote and in-office teams. Deadlines are often missed due to misaligned work schedules. What is the best solution? A. Require all employees to work in the office full-time. B. Implement shared scheduling tools with clear deadlines. C. Allow teams to work independently with no synchronization. D. Extend deadlines indefinitely to account for delays. Answer: B. Implement shared scheduling tools with clear deadlines. Explanation: shared scheduling tools and clear deadlines improve coordination and ensure teams remain aligned. Question 20. In a multi-location scenario where consistency requirements must be met, a fast food chain launches a new menu item. However, customer feedback varies significantly between locations. What is the best course of action? A. Conduct market research and adjust the item based on regional preferences. B. Standardize the item without considering customer feedback. C. Discontinue the item if it is unpopular in some locations. D. Let each location modify the item as they see fit. Answer: A. Conduct market research and adjust the item based on regional preferences. Explanation: market research ensures adjustments are data-driven, maintaining brand consistency while meeting customer expectations. Question 21. In a large organization where multiple departments need to coordinate efforts for a major project, what is the most effective way to ensure alignment and avoid miscommunication? A. Implement a centralized project management tool and hold regular cross-departmental meetings. B. Allow each department to work independently and update others only when necessary. C. Assign a single department to oversee all coordination and communication. D. Focus primarily on written documentation rather than interactive discussions. Answer A. Implement a centralized project management tool and hold regular cross-departmental meetings. Explanation: successful coordination in a large organization requires transparency and real-time communication. A centralized project management tool helps track tasks, dependencies, and deadlines across departments. Regular cross-departmental meetings ensure alignment, address bottlenecks, and provide a forum for collaboration. Solely on written documentation, D, or allowing departments to work in silos, B, can lead to misalignment and inefficiencies. Question 22. During a critical transition period where existing processes must be adapted to new compliance regulations, what is the most effective way to implement these changes with minimal disruption? A. Make immediate changes without consultation to ensure rapid compliance. B. Gradually phase in changes while conducting training and gathering feedback. C. Assign a single team to enforce compliance without input from employees. D. Wait until all regulations are fully finalized before beginning implementation. Answer B. Gradually phase in changes while conducting training and gathering feedback. Explanation: phased implementation allows employees to adjust to new regulations while ensuring compliance. Training and feedback loops help refine processes. Making abrupt changes can cause confusion, while enforcing rules without input, C, may lead to resistance. Waiting too long, D, risks falling behind on compliance deadlines. Question 23. When dealing with a complex system that shows occasional failures under heavy workload, what is the best strategy to diagnose and resolve the issue? A. Monitor system performance over time and analyze failure patterns. B. Replace the entire system with a new one to eliminate potential issues. C. Ignore minor failures unless they become a critical problem. D. Make random adjustments in different system areas to see what helps. Answer A. Monitor system performance over time and analyze failure patterns. Explanation: monitoring performance over time helps identify patterns and root causes of failures. This enables targeted solutions, such as optimizing specific processes or improving infrastructure. Replacing the entire system, B, is costly and unnecessary if issues are isolated. Ignoring failures, C, can lead to major breakdowns, and random adjustments, D, have predictable consequences. Question 24. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges must be addressed simultaneously, what is the most effective approach to prioritization? A. Address the easiest challenges first to create quick wins. B. Rank issues based on impact and urgency, focusing on critical problems first. C. Assign equal attention to all challenges regardless of severity. D. Delay addressing challenges until a comprehensive plan is developed. Answer B. Rank issues based on impact and urgency, focusing on critical problems first. Explanation: a structured approach to prioritization, such as the impact urgency matrix, ensures that critical challenges are handled first. Tackling easy problems first, they can delay urgent issues. Equal attention, C, dilutes resources and delaying action. D, can escalate problems. Question 25. While investigating a complicated issue between different business units, what is the most effective conflict resolution strategy? A. Assign a third-party mediator to facilitate discussions. B. Allow each unit to operate independently without interference. C. Choose one unit's approach and enforce it across the organization. D. Ignore the issue until productivity declines significantly. Answer A. Assign a third-party mediator to facilitate discussions. Explanation: a third-party mediator brings neutrality and helps both sides find common ground. Letting units operate separately, B, can lead to inefficiencies. Enforcing one unit's approach, C, without collaboration may cause resistance, and ignoring conflicts, D, worsens organizational inefficiency. Question 26. During a comprehensive review of a process that needs improvement, what is the best way to ensure meaningful and lasting changes? A. Identify bottlenecks and use data-driven decision-making for optimization. B. Apply changes without measuring their impact to avoid delays. C. Rely solely on external consultants without involving internal teams. D. Maintain current processes unless A major failure occurs. Answer A. Identify bottlenecks and use data-driven decision-making for optimization. Explanation. Data-driven decision-making ensures that improvements are based on actual performance insights, implementing changes without measurement. B. Risks and effective modifications. External consultants, C, should be complemented with internal expertise. Waiting for failure, D, is a reactive approach that can lead to operational inefficiencies. Question 27. When implementing new protocols in a shared environment, what is the best approach to encourage adoption across all teams? A. Clearly communicate the benefits and provide hands-on training. B. Enforce strict adherence without considering team feedback. C. Roll out protocols gradually without prior explanation. D. Allow teams to follow the protocols only if they choose to. Answer A. Clearly communicate the benefits and provide hands-on training. Explanation. Clear communication and hands-on training help employees understand and adopt new protocols. Strict enforcement without explanation, B, can lead to resistance. Rolling out protocols without prior explanation, C, causes confusion and making adherence optional. D, undermines consistency. Question 28. In a scenario where efficiency decreases across multiple departments, what is the best method to identify and address the root causes? A. Conduct. A process analysis and gather employee feedback. B. Implement immediate cost-cutting measures without investigation. C. Increase workloads to compensate for inefficiencies. D. Assume inefficiencies will resolve over time without intervention. Answer A. Conduct a process analysis and gather employee feedback. Explanation. Process analysis helps identify inefficiencies and employee feedback provides first-hand insights. Cost-cutting without analysis, B, may harm productivity, increasing workloads, C, worsens burnout, and assuming problems will resolve, D, leads to continued inefficiency. Question 29. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in a production line, what is the most effective method for problem solving? A. Apply root cause analysis, or CA, in failure mode and effects analysis, FME. B. Make random adjustments to the production process and observe results. C. Replace all machinery to eliminate potential defects. D. Reduce production speed to minimize issues without investigating causes. Answer A. Apply root cause analysis, CA, in failure mode and effects analysis, FME. Explanation. RCA and FMEA provide systematic methods for identifying and addressing root causes. Random adjustments, B, create unpredictable outcomes. Replacing all machinery, C, is costly and unnecessary. Slowing production, D, avoids symptoms but does not resolve the core problem. Question 30. When developing a solution that must address opposing needs of different stakeholders, what is the best approach? A. Engage stakeholders in structured discussions to find a balanced compromise. B. Favor the most influential stakeholders' needs over others. C. Implement rigid, one-size-fits-all solution without customization. D. Delay decision-making indefinitely to avoid conflicts. Answer A. Engage stakeholders in structured discussions to find a balanced compromise. Explanation. Engaging stakeholders in structured discussions allows for a balanced approach. Favoring one party, B, creates dissatisfaction. A rigid solution, C, may not address all concerns. Delaying action, D, prolongs inefficiencies and frustration.